There is one question that every narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath, so every reprobate, there's also one question that every cult, whether it's a satanic cult or just any common cult, there's one question even many governments will ask you in an indirect way. They will not ask you this directly. Because if they ask you this directly, it would creep you out and it would show immediately the danger you're in. What is that question? The question is, what do you have to lose? Understand the following. Toxic people, as well as bad people, evil people, there's a difference between the three. Toxic simply means that someone is harmful to be around. It doesn't mean that they are directly evil with bad intentions. So it means they're harmful to be around because they're in denial. Bad people, people simply don't want to comply with justice. They insist on having excuses, do not take responsibility nor accountability. Evil people are those who are completely self-destructive and drag everyone in it willfully. If it's not willfully, they're just in denial, they're just toxic. Still dangerous, but toxic. Evil people know very well that they're self-destructing, and they're self-destructing, drag others with it willfully. That's an evil individual. Now, understand this. Toxic, bad, and evil people. There is one thing they are all aware of. Their own vulnerability. And they hate it. They can't stand their own vulnerability. They insist on compensating for vulnerability. Here's a problem with that. We are vulnerable creatures. How can a vulnerable creature be against their own vulnerability? That's delusional. However, that's how toxic, bad, and evil people operate. Not on the same level. There are degrees in it. Nevertheless, that's how they operate. So the way they compensate for this vulnerability that's inherent to their nature that they won't accept is by taking advantage of other people's vulnerability. So, a toxic, bad, or evil individual will always check what they can use against you the first time they meet you. A reprobate, or just any unsafe individual, they tend to do this all the time. They won't ask you the question directly, because even they know asking this question directly is a no-go. It's off limits. Instead, they'll try to figure it out by the questions you're asking during a conversation. There's nothing wrong with exchanging information during a conversation. There's nothing wrong with people being interested in what you do for a living or what you're doing in your daily lives. Nothing wrong with that. Just understand, not everyone who has a conversation with you is generally interested in you or what you're about. Some people just want to know what they can use against you to escape. I want you to understand this. Now, imagine, I'm going to give you an example now. Imagine you're about to buy a sofa and you see this advertisement online. You can purchase a sofa for like $200. So, you purchase a sofa. You pay with your debit card. You have your receipt. So based on that, the seller is obliged to deliver a sofa. What if the seller does not deliver a sofa? Oh, to make it worse, what if the sofa doesn't even exist? You've been scammed. You lost $200. And you don't have that much money in your pocket. You lost $200. What can you do now? You can contact the seller and demand your money back. You can contact the seller to ask what's going on. what if the seller or quote unquote seller doesn't respond? They're just off. Now, you need to use some pressure to get your money back. So you tend to go to the police, call the cops to report them. Once you report them, now the police can use their leverage, which is rooted in violence, to go after that individual. And here's the thing. If the police goes after them, because there's a warrant on them, they'll be arrested. And if they're found guilty, they'll end up in prison. In prison, they will lose their job, their house, they'll be cut off from their social relationships, so now they have losses. And because a lot of people have something to lose, whether it's just their job, because without a job they're homeless, or is their prestige or their reputation or the social relationships with people they care about, because they have things they want to preserve, they don't want to behave in a way that would endanger those things. And that's why that restrains them from behaving improperly or in a violent way. Maybe you walk into a room, you talk a little bit loud, unbeknownst to you, and someone just wants to scream at you to shut up and all of that, but they remembered, oh, there are cameras around. If I behave this way and the security cameras record it, I cannot force people to delete the footage. And it can be used against me. You know what? Let me shut up. Or let's say you're in traffic and someone in front of you just stops out of the blue, almost causing an accident. And you think, hey, let me get out of this car and teach the guy a lesson. But then when you get out of the car, you see that the guy in front of you has a gun in the car. You immediately realize if you confront this individual, the individual may get scared and use the gun. And what happens? You're either dead or you're injured in a hospital. And after you leave the hospital, you have to recover. You may be paralyzed as a result or whatever. And because you either dying or being long-term injured physically is going to make life harder on you, you may realize, you know what, let me get back to my car. What I'm saying is, people in general act according to what they can get away with. Let's say now that let's say when you were growing up, your dad was quite direct, to the point, quite insensitive to how other people felt. He would tell people in their face if he didn't like them or he thought they were ugly, whatever. He had no filter at all. He would just run his mouth. Guess what? That same father of yours, I guarantee you, if it was a police officer out there that caused inconvenience towards him, he wouldn't act that way. Because he knows the police officer can arrest him and he'll be charged. And he may get a criminal record also. And with that criminal record, it's going to be more difficulty on his life. So, because he doesn't want to go through anything, he keeps his mouth shut. I know for sure when it comes to the tax authorities, he wouldn't do that. Because they can make life hard on him. What I'm saying is that overall, in life, people behave based on the options they have. Think about it. If you have a job and the employer is quite toxic and demanding, now, if you could easily get another job tomorrow, guess what? You wouldn't stay. But what if it's not that easy to get another job? Now, based on the few options you have, you realize that it's either you hold on and put up with it, or you risk becoming homeless. So, because being homeless is far worse, you put up with the lesser of two evils. Doesn't mean you're happy there, doesn't mean it's the best thing for you to be there, but for now, it's all you have. But here's another thing. When people have a lot of options, it tends to reduce the quality of their loyalty. if you have two nationalities. Let's say you have the Russian nationality, and you also have the, let's say, the French nationality. What if you married someone, or not married someone, what if you cohabit with someone in France? You have children with her. And one day you think, my God, I don't want to have to look after children anymore. I just want to get over this. And you decide you want to leave. Well, here's the issue. You have children with her. You can't just leave like that. It's against the law. What if one day you just go back to Russia? Now, because you're a Russian citizen, you can use the legal system of Russia to bail you out from your obligations as a parent in France. Now, I'm not saying the Russian authorities would agree with you, but hey, because you're the citizen, they have the obligation to look after you. But here's the issue. If you only had one nationality, let's say the French one, and you wanted to abandon your children in France, what would happen? France could block your passport. Now you can't travel anywhere. If you abandon your children, which is a crime, and you move to Russia or to Bulgaria or to Japan, whatever, France could request that other country to extradite you back. Or they can still block your passport and none of your bank accounts anywhere would work anymore. So financially you're blocked. But if you have two nationalities, you can always use one to balance out the other. Now, I'm not saying that everyone with dual nationality or dual citizenship automatically does this. However, it is a tendency in fallen mankind to want to escape. This is what the Bible calls sin. It's something all of us have by birth, though to the fall of Adam. Now, we can manage this tendency of ours only to some extent. To actually be freed and delivered from it, we need the Heavenly Father. I'm telling you, this is how it works with people in the world, with worldlings. The more options they have, the less loyal they tend to be. Or if they have loyalty, the quality of their loyalty tends to be less. Because think about it. If you could get any job any time tomorrow, or if you don't even need a job because you can be on welfare easily, guess what? You'll be less inclined to perform well at your job. But if you know that without that job you're homeless, guess what? You have no choice but to perform well at the job or else you're homeless. So automatically you will regard your employer more than usual. You will consider your colleagues more. Why? Because if your colleagues are upset with you and keep complaining about you, you can lose your job. If your employer is happy with you, you can lose a job. And because you have something to lose, you tend to behave better. Now, this should not be your sole motive for behaving better. You should want to behave better because you want to be a better human being. That's the healthy way. However, that's not how the world works. So, understanding fallen mankind, governments, satanic cults in general, and also toxic, bad, and evil people, they understand. You can only get away with your behavior if the other party or third parties cannot injure you in response. For example, let's say there's a homeless guy and you're kind of insensitive or offensive towards the homeless guy. Guess what? It's a homeless guy. No leverage. If a police officer walks by and you're offensive towards them, okay, the police officer as well as society in general can retaliate against you and cause damage to you. So with a police officer, you can't behave that way. Maybe you have parents who are a bit neglectful, wasteful, and even harmful towards their own children. But because they know in the neighborhood nobody wants to be bothered by anything, people are escaping, they understand that when they misbehave towards their children, they have the leverage to get away with it for now. Because nobody's going to intervene in their household because people have this privacy mentality or this mind your own business mentality. those parents understand if they would live in a neighborhood where people actually care about one another and concern one another, they wouldn't get away mistreating their children like that. So they know there may be a block or a hinder coming for them. So not only can you only get away with behavior if the other party or third parties lack the leverage or ability to strike back or to act out back against you, but here's another thing. What guarantees you that someone would not neglect you or waste you? What guarantees that? As a matter of fact, people, if they're not in the right mind, or if they decide they just want to escape, they will neglect you and waste you. Simple as that. So, the only way that people in the world have to reduce the risk of being abandoned or wasted is by having something to use against someone. Let's go back to the example I gave about you purchasing this sofa online and you get no sofa. Well, the other party that robbed you, or scammed you better said, if they have a family or they have a career or whatever, then less likely they would want that to come out. So they'll come to a settlement very quickly. What if you're dealing with an ex-convict who can't get a job and who's abandoned by their family and they're a loner also? So they don't have much to lose. So because they have not much to, they don't have much to lose anymore, they'll think, who cares? They either put me back in prison or whatever, or whatever. And this is what I want you to understand. Governments, satanic cults, and also toxic, bad, and evil people in general, they ask this question to you indirectly. What do you have to lose? If they perceive that you have something to lose, or if they perceive some vulnerability they can use against you, they'll be okay with you. They may even get close to you and love bomb you. They make sure the grip on you increases. But the moment they realize that you have leverage to counter them or what they're about, they instantly lose interest, or they may become hostile towards you, they want nothing to do with you. And I want you to understand this. Some people are only interested in you, or they're only okay with you as long as you're worse off than them, one way or the other. Maybe you're a millionaire, but you cannot keep a partner. Or maybe you're a millionaire, you have far more money than they have, but you have a disease that's devouring you. Or maybe you're a millionaire, but you have a horrible attitude and people can't stand you. So you're lonely most of the time. What I'm saying is, people have no problem having you around if you're worse off than them in some area, because they can always use that to call you out and shut you up, or they can use it against you to counter you, whether it's in a court of law or in an informal way out there. The moment you walk by faith, the moment you begin to walk in power that Heavenly Father has given you, people cannot just come and injure you. As a matter of fact, you can counter any negative attempt against you without you becoming violent yourself. You could be ahead of things. And the more people realize the power you have, the less willing they are to deal with you. The less willing they are to put up with you. The more intolerant they become towards you. I'm not saying that this only happens to believers. I'm just pointing out to you, it's not just bad people, toxic people, and evil people. Worldlings in general tend to only want to associate with you as long as they have something on you, just in case one day they want to escape, they don't want to face themselves, they can make you the problem or use you as a human shield to deflect for them to face themselves. That's a common tendency in the world. So if you have nothing that they can look down upon, if you have nothing that they can use against you, guess what? They'll ghost you. They'll be gone. Some people were around you because they thought they had something on you. They thought that they had the leverage somewhere. And the more they were around you and realized that they had nothing on you whatsoever, as a matter of fact, that you were the one with the leverage, guess what? They never agreed to this. The only reason they were around you, whether they were your friends or just associated with you, was because they thought they had something on you. That's what made them feel safe on the inside. Now they realize that you're the one with the leverage and they have nothing on you, they don't feel safe around you anymore. They're gone. And if that's the case, let them go. You don't need people like that around you. You shouldn't even want people like that around you. You hear me? Listen. The question, what do you have to lose? Nobody's going to ask the question directly. It's very rare for someone to ask a question directly. However, that is the answer to that question is something governments, cults, satanic cults, bad, toxic people are looking for. Now, worldlings in general also tend to want to know the answer to this question, but they're not that into it, but they have that tendency. So understand this. When people have nothing that they can use against you, when people realize that they're the ones that will end up losing in case it comes to them wanting to escape, guess what? They'll do whatever they can to get rid of you as soon as possible. I'm telling you, beware of this. So, don't become paranoid nor hysterical when it comes to dealing with other people. Not everyone that asks you questions, not everyone who has a conversation with you is out there to get you or do something to you. No, absolutely not. Just know it's a common thing in the world for people to use others as a human shield for the narcissistic supply. And when you're dealing with governments, cults, satanic cults, and dangerous people, then you know that you're dealing with people who want to know what you have to lose, what they have to lose, and where the leverage over you is. So beware of this in your daily interactions. And if you notice, some people suddenly, quote unquote, outgrow you or they lose interest in you, sometimes it's just that the Heavenly Father is pushing them to move on with their lives. They've been stuck for a while and God wants them to work on themselves and to move forward. That could be the case too. That's not a negative. Pray for them. Wish them the best. But it can also be that they are outgrowing who they thought you were. The real you, they couldn't outgrow because they were never into the real you. They had a perception of you that suited their narcissism. They had an expectation of you that suited their escape. But now that that expectation cannot be maintained anymore, they're gone. Simple as that. Anyway, stay in peace. Stay focused on the Father to do His will. Keep agreeing with Christ. And I will see you in my next live stream.